Okay, welcome to our induction again to Spring Care for You. We've done some sessions, so this may not be the first one as you're seeing it in order, but you'll see that I've given you the days or the weeks timetable, and it's got links to the YouTube videos, and this is the one about the home induction plan itself. So let's just recap and make sure that you've got everything, that it's fully been understood. So we've done the introduction to Spring Care for You. We talked about it in the induction training, and you met Anya, you've met me. We went through how the company's structured. We've had welcome meetings where we've had our induction training, but this morning or today on your first day, you will have met with your manager at the house. And again, we've talked about in the other YouTube videos I've done the organisation's mission and values, an explanation of the role of the children's home in supporting young people, and an overview of the team. You are the key staff, and we've talked about the designated safeguarding lead being myself as the responsible individual, and also, for my pleasure, I'm also the data officer. So there are two lead things that the RI does. Now, you've also looked at the home environment, and we've looked a little bit in our training at health and safety and how to look and dynamically risk assess in the home. We've looked at some of the safety protocols, so you've seen there's a fire plan on the wall as you come in, next to the actual fire panel, with where the exits are, how to activate the window locks, should they be on, where the keys are kept, where the keys to the house are kept, how to turn off the alarm. All of those things you should by now, by the time you're reading this, know. Otherwise, note them down, and it's something you can go through with Katie as we go through the day. We've looked at the employee handbook, and I've gone through that in a similar video to this in depth. And now I want to just double check that you have got all of these. So professional standards, health and safety, confidentiality, equality, and safeguarding policy. Well, have you got them? Yes, you have. There they are. And if you follow the video we did already to look at how to get onto your drive, then under my drive there, induction paperwork, which is that like purpley coloured folder, induction documents, there they are. And these are for you to download. You can make paper copies if you want. You can read them online, but they're all PDF'd, so they won't get affected. So you've got an extra one on first aid there. Health and safeguarding, health and safety, equality, confidentiality, and behaviour at work, which is what we're calling our code of conduct. Now, we've talked a little bit about safer recruitment. We've talked about the need to make sure that our staff are recruited safely and how we go about doing that. You will have experienced it by working with us, so you've gone through all of those safer recruitment checks. And so that's been, if you like, this may be the first day or couple of days of watching different videos, and there's no rush. I've put a timetable of the first week, but essentially, as long as you've completed all of this by the end, then whatever order you do it in is fine. We just need to make sure that you can sign off what you've done. So, week one, we're looking at the role and what training you need. And we've talked already a little bit about child protection and safeguarding. We've done our induction health and safety training. Now, we haven't done first aid training face to face, but you've done it on Training Hub, and I've given you that handout from St John's, which is just a very simple reference guide, but it's quite a decent piece of work. You know, it is St John's is a highly respected organisation, and so what I would say to you is please just read through this document. You'll find it very useful. Data protection and confidentiality we've talked about, and you've got a copy of the confidentiality policy. We've gone through that. You know each other as team members. Now, in terms of mentor assignment, if you were coming into the organisation, say, in 6 months and it wasn't a brand new organisation, one of the things we might be looking at is assigning you a mentor. So a more experienced staff member who can work with you to give you that support. What we've done to offer mentoring, if you like, so far though, is that you'll notice on the way your shift patterns work is that one more experienced staff member will be with one staff member who's starting out on their journey with us and in children's residential care. So we are doing that. And of course, we can't meet the children and young people at the time I'm recording this because we still haven't opened. So week 2, or the second phase of our induction, will be shadowing and observation. Now, again, to really understand this section, you're going to have children in the house, because it says the new staff member will spend their time shadowing the experienced staff, watching their interactions. And we've done a lot of with Andrea the other day about positive interaction with children, de-escalation of issues, how to safely intervene. And then we learn about how daily tasks are managed, including managing challenging behaviour that challenges and creating a supportive environment. We've done that in our training. We've looked at the principles of safeguarding. We talked a lot about examples of safeguarding, shared some of the ways that safeguarding issues affect us personally. So we've looked at some of those together. And then reflection meetings. Now again, at the moment you won't have them, but what the expectation of the organisation is that you will debrief daily. You don't leave your shift until you've had a chance to decompress, debrief, and that's written in your handover notes, your daily summary, what you debriefed about. So your handover should have a section about debriefing, your daily summary should have a little section at the end about debriefing. So debriefing sessions with your mentor or line manager to discuss observations, questions, and reflect on experiences. Now, we will be looking at setting up for each staff member an online reflective log, and I want you to take this very seriously from the very beginning of your induction, because again, it will be something that we'll look at with your competencies. So the reflective log is not your daily logs. This is something where you may write it as an online journal. You may prefer to write a longhand version if that's your thing. But what we'll be looking at in your appraisals and in your supervisions is just notes that you've made for yourself of things you've learned, things you need to learn, reflections about how you feel about different things that have happened. So, for example, the first time maybe you have a physical intervention, what does it feel like for you? How does that make you square up to the job that you signed up for, if you like, or that you were interviewed for? Does it feel right? How did it feel for the young person? The first time that a young person maybe swore at you, how did that feel? What did it make you feel? How might you approach that in a different way next time? All of this is about reflection, and I actually want to see a written log of what you are learning during this induction and potentially during your probation period. In the log as well, it's good for you to identify, not for us specifically, but at this stage, you to identify areas for your development. So things that you think, gosh, I really didn't know how to deal with that situation. Don't just say, well, I talked to so and so and we sorted it all out. I want you to record it. I want you to record down what the issue was, because if you do that, you'll be able to look back on it and think, wow, I've come a long way. It's your journey as well. But also as an organisation, we can learn where maybe we need to support staff better as they come into the organisation. And the learning, I'm certainly hoping, is something that you will share with us, these learning logs. Then we will look at care planning. Care planning is a very finely balanced set of bringing a number of different key documents together. You record on clear care, but care planning is not clear care. Let's just be clear. And just to make sure that there is no doubts in your mind, the phrasing I will be using all the way through your training with care planning is care plan's local authority, placement plan is what you do in the house. I'm going to say that again because we have had some discussion on this already during induction. Care plan is the local authority, placement plan is what you will be writing up in the house. Now, you need to get those definitions in your mind now, because your documents otherwise are not going to make any sense to you. If you come from an adult background, just to confuse things, your care plan is often the thing you write in-house because it's how you deliver the care. But in children's residential services, the care plan is what the local authority stipulate. And you need to get this in your head because you'll see it an awful lot. The care plan, what's written in the care plan, is what the local authority will send to us. We then take that information, and basically our placement plan is how we are going to meet those care planning needs in the house, in the placement. So it's a placement plan. Next to that, you'll also be getting used to writing a behaviour support plan, which covers how we're going to support each aspect of that young person's behaviour. And because we're dealing with traumatised children, it is probable, not possible, but probable that we're going to have a behaviour support plan and a detailed one for each child. It's also good practice, even if a child doesn't come presenting with many particular behavioural issues. It's still good to make a behavioural support plan so you can chart how things are changing for that young person, either even better or areas that they're getting challenged. Because a child can come in a very stable place in their life, and then something can happen to them which will throw them out, and you'll see behaviour that you haven't seen before. But maybe other people in previous placements will have seen exactly what you're seeing because the child is now unsettled, or it's an anniversary of something that's happened, like a death of a parent, or a divorce, or something, and it's unsettled the child, so the behaviour has changed. Seems new to you, but it's not new if you knew the child for longer. And we need to get a handle on that together. So we placement plan and we behaviour plan, and then we also risk assess. So risk assessments are the things that you carry out for the physical environment. Is it a safe environment? But then you risk assess emotionally as well. So let me explain. If you run down the stairs in Queen's Crescent, you'll probably fall down them because it needs a banister putting in, and that's something that we are risk assessing. So we're going to put 2 banisters in as from the risk assessment we carried out for the building. And then also we need to look at if a child is happy, excited, cross, anxious. How are they going to approach that staircase? Will a 7-year-old and a 16-year-old do the same things? Will there be a tendency to dive 2 steps at a time down the stairs, and so on and so forth? And we have to cover risks. So there's just an example. If there's a fire, what are we going to do? How do we manage that? How do we make sure that we get everybody out safely in a timely manner? How do we make sure that we have done everything we can to prevent the possibility of a fire taking place? Risk assessment. If a child goes missing from care, what are we going to do? How are we going to manage that? How are we going to address the issues to maybe stop or certainly limit that happening again as far as we can? So risk assessments are not, there's no prescribed number. I've seen anything from 6 to 30 risk assessments. And what we try and do is we map them. We see how the risks are changing over the months. So again, it's worth doing a really good job at risk assessing. And then you can look over time if the risks are coloured, which they often are in terms of red, amber, green. So green will be quite a low risk, amber a medium risk, red a high risk. And you'll see if you change it, the graph changes over the year. So if a child goes from red to green, that's brilliant. We can essentially note that that risk can be archived. It's still a risk possibility, but it's now not an active risk at this stage in the child's journey. And we can put where in their journey that came. And it could be that we can then see how your intervention as a support worker, say, or a particular key worker, has had a major influence, or a piece of work you did with that child had a major influence and has actually reduced their risks down significantly. Or you can see that maybe they're just getting that bit older, more stable, things are settling down for them, they're feeling settled, and the risk just drops. So there's a lot of work around care planning and assessing. Then the other big area we look at is from the care plan, there are outcomes that the local authority have set for that child to achieve. Educational outcomes from from education, health outcomes from health, and also just general social outcomes for that child. independence outcomes. There's lots of different things. It could be dietary outcomes. Whatever has been identified by the local authority social workers and professionals is what we are then tasked to support that child to achieve. How do we do it? We have to have a way of being able to show that some change has happened, because otherwise, if the local authority are paying us a large sum of money each week to look after that young person, but they don't see any change, why not? Why are they there? What's working for them? But it could also be that there are very valuable or valid reasons why that child is not achieving. It could be they've got stuck on something. It could also be that, as we just mentioned, emotionally they're not in the right place to do something that's a practical outcome. So we need to stop, relook at it, replan how we do it, and come back to it. It could be that they've had a trauma that's revisited something in them, triggered something, and that set them back. So to be able to do justice to a child's looked after child review, you need to be able to understand what's happening for that child, how things are changing, what incidents have happened, why those incidents happen, not just, for example, that a young person has cut their wrists 5 times. What's it telling us? What can we learn? What can we do better? How can we serve that young person better than we have done to try and reduce that number of risks? Many risks might not even be from within the community, sorry, in the house. They may be from in the community. Things that are happening at school or in the child's social life or even in their online community may all be factors that are changing things, and we need to care plan for that. And the final thing I'd say on care planning is you'll get used to planning your key working. We talked about this during the induction. Keyword planning is massive because it can either be planned, as in you sit together, and I seriously suggest that you do that. You actually have a planning meeting and you look at each child, you decide where each child's up to. You'll have all of your daily logs, you'll have all of your weekly logs, your handover issues, um, everything in your current risk assessments, the current care plan updates, and you can look and say, right, we need to address these key issues for this young person. What key working can we do, and where can we get maybe resources that will help us? If you fail to plan, or is it fail to plan's planning to fail, is the phrase that they talk about, and you can reverse whichever way you say it. But if you don't plan properly, you'll achieve nothing. So planning's massive. Now, if you don't do it, if you plan well and nothing happens, or you don't get a chance to address the issue, or you plan really good sessions and the child doesn't want to engage, you can always use them again. You can always come back to good key work planning. But if everything's, oh, well, we only record ad hoc discussions, journeys, visits, sitting over the breakfast table, whatever it is, if that's all you record, how do you have any structure as to what you're achieving? How do we use those very valuable sessions to show that we are thinking about that child's needs and how to address them? So we need to talk about that, and we need to look at our record keeping, and that's something that, again, as we open the home and we start to use clear care on a day-to-day basis, there'll be more input from myself, from Katie, from as a management team to look at what do we expect from good record keeping, what do we expect from you in terms of how often you record and the quality of what you record. We've touched on it in the safeguarding that we did in the safeguarding course. We have touched on it right the way through all of our induction, and you have touched on it in the work you've done on Training Hub, specifically about recording. But we've said things like recording has to be factual, it has to be unbiased, it has to be what they call contemporaneous, which means a constant record of everything that's going on. But the quality and how you write and how you, if you like, help the child to tell the story of their time in care is something that comes with practice and time. And we'll work on that together. So then if we move on to the third part, and again, I am quite structured. The temptation for those of you who are experienced watching this video will be, I want to jump ahead, know all this, know all this, know all this. But you don't know it for our organisation, would be my challenge. You don't know it from the way that we and as a management team and the directors want it to be set out. So that's why we're doing it in a very structured manner, so everybody learns the same and is on an even playing field. You'll want to bring things into the organisation. You'll have done things before, and some of what I'm telling you about at the moment will feel like almost insulting by the fact that you think, oh, God, I know all this. Golly gosh, I know this so often. Why is he telling us again? You have to remember, though, that as a team, you've got to become cohesive together, and so everybody has to have the same knowledge base. So, for those of you who fly along with this, then you'll be able to support other people who are not flying along with it, but it'll be the same materials. So we need to look at the new staff member will begin to take on key tasks. So participating in activities, planning activities. And again, that's massively important alongside your key working. Managing daily routines, meal preparations, bedtimes. You've all said about consistency, but now you've got to, as a team, pull that together into what does it look like? What does it look like? Not just, yes, we need to be. How are you going to be? What are you going to do to record the consistency? How are you going to make sure that everybody's consistent in the same way? Sounds like I'm contradicting myself or pulling words apart. But it's all your idea of consistency and my idea of consistency may be two different things. So you've got to have those honest discussions about what does consistency look like. And then we're going to plan activities, get out, do them, start to see what happens with the young people. And then we'll see, once we go past honeymoon periods, I'm guessing probably we'll go through some difficult patches. And those of you, again, who are experienced, you're going to be using this first part of your induction or probation period to really help and mentor but on an equal level, the people who have not experienced these things before. What I don't want for all of you in the induction is there to be two teams, an experienced team and non-experienced team, because that's just a waste of energy. It's a waste of experience. And really it sets people up to fail and creates a two-tier sort of team that doesn't need to be. We are a small team, our first house, everybody needs to be equal. Absolutely, including myself. Everybody in the organisation just needs to approach things in a consistent and clear way, knowing that we've agreed and worked and supported each other to get to where we are. So again, for those people who don't know at this point, we'll have probably had some incidents by then, and the new staff members will then begin to apply knowledge of safeguarding practice. And because we're on ClearCare, I will be looking all the time with you and giving you feedback about things that maybe have got missed, or things that could be improved upon, or things that have been done really well. And Katie, as your registered manager, will be in a perfect position to see how well everybody's doing at the different tasks. Now, once you get into your probation period, you'll start having, well, they start at 2 weekly points and then they go to monthly. And Katie will decide, by the way, when that 2 weekly point goes to monthly, because she has to be absolutely sure, and when she's reporting it back to me, I have to be sure to report back to the board that we're happy with the progress of each person. So you will have regular supervisions, you will have probation meetings, we will talk about the basics as well as the more advanced stuff across the board, whatever role you've taken. It's necessary because we don't know. We know you, we've met you a few times, but you are our organisation. You are the organisation. You are the people that the children, most importantly, are going to trust, lean on, need to believe, and feel safe with. So you are the main people, and I need to be absolutely sure that everybody's at the same level, on the same playing field. Supervisions and appraisal meetings and probation meetings will all help to identify training and set goals. And goals are time limited, by the way. They're not just open-ended. So your managers will set you a goal, there'll be a time on it. And if you don't achieve that in there, then it's a discussion as to why, what can we do to make that goal more achievable? How can we help you to be able to achieve it within the time frame next time? So by month one, we would assume that probably everybody will be fully integrated into the team. The danger of month one is that some people may begin to feel, know it all now, we've done it, there's nothing new to learn. I think you'll all agree with me by now anyway that that's just not realistic. It doesn't work like that. You know from jobs you've done before, it's normally at that point when you're starting just to feel settled that things very quickly can go, from 1 to 10, that they can just go out of control. Things can go wrong if you've not got your finger on the pulse right the way through. So every staff member is and will be enrolled on the level 4 qualification. That your names are all in there. You've been asked to fill applications in. Not all of you may have done them by now, but again, that's going to be something you need to do in this first week. Get yourself on the level 4. Make sure you've put everything through now. You've got a start date and get cracking with it. Also, we'll be using that reflective process on a day-to-day basis, and you'll begin to see how it makes you think differently, hopefully, and reflect differently about what's happening. So that is very much at the point when people like myself and the Reg 44 visitor will start to come in, and we'll be watching. We may not say anything, we may not sit with a clipboard, but we'll be noting and seeing how you're progressing and feeding that back to Katie. She's your line manager, and we'll make sure that we give good feedback so that she can then give you good feedback, and your continuous professional development can be built, your learning portfolio from an early time. So what's in this learning portfolio? Well, it'll be records of your training, records of internal courses, records of extra courses, and any courses you want to do on Training Hub. There's no limit to how many you can try. Any extra contributions you've made from your own personal learning log we talked about. So putting it in there, the discussions and supervision notes that you've got, all of that will go in. And for each person, you can do this either as an online file, or you can do it as a physical. We'll give you a binder and we'll fill it together. But it should show by the end of your probation period that you have managed to tick off everything that we'd set out at the start of this induction period and this probation period. That you have all the competencies there, that you've had a chance to experience everything, and that we've been able to set some real goals for the succession planning. So, wherever you are now, by that point, you should be 9 months further on. You're next on to working towards the next level of your job, whatever level you're at now. The next level of your job is what we should be working towards, and we should be setting goals around those things so that you've got something concrete to measure against. By the end of month 3, so this is halfway through now, there's a formal meeting, a probation meeting, and this is where we evaluate your performance to date. We look at all the data metrics that are put before us and we discuss it together. And then we look at your attitude, your team working. And, sometimes that's going to be a bit of an honest conversation if you feel there's been things where either you felt frustrated with the organisation, or you feel you've been held back, or you've been pushed forward too quickly, or you've had comments from children or from your colleagues. And we'll look at all of those. We have to look at them honestly because we can't make improvements otherwise. And then at the end of our 6 month period, I suppose I've just jumped radically here to there, we then will have a final probation meeting where we'd say, how do you feel about it? How do we feel about it? Have you passed your probation? Or do we need to extend that probation for a further 3 months? Now, as I said before, we're a no surprises organisation. You would have every right to raise a grievance if you were surprised by the finding at that 6 month period, because it should be absolutely clear to you whether you're on track or not on track, and what we're going to do together if you're not on track. Incidentally, while we're just moving to there, this isn't a pass or fail test in that, this is your career. And I think the greatest test of how well we're all doing is what our young people think of the service that we're offering them, if you want to put it in a consumery type way, but on what we're doing to support them. Do they feel safe? Do they feel valued? Do they feel they have a voice in the home? Do they feel that their care is planned and that they're part of that planning process? All of these things have to come, they should be evident in the home. So that's what we'll be looking at. And as I say, it's a no surprise document. We'll talk it through as time goes on. So then the second part of your document is a very practical section. It's not, by the way, every single thing, but what we have is a list of all the tasks there. And the delegated person probably would be Katie in this instance, although team leaders might be Colin in that box. It might be me, but whoever it is, we'll put their name in there. Date completed, so that will be the date we agree. Either you might put it in, but we'll check it off, check the evidence. Once, basically, the date completed means once a manager has checked the evidence with you, they fill in the date there. So that then eventually, by the time we get to the end of your probation period, everything on that list will have been completed and signed off. Once all that's signed off, and it may be that there's an action plan that's gone with it, there may be more boxes here. And when you're doing it together online, it's as easy as insert a row, you just add to them. But once you're happy that everything on that list at least has been achieved, you then go to this section, you will sign, manager will sign, I will sign, and that is you signed off from that point of view of the induction checklist. Now, it seems an awfully long process for one induction checklist, which you may think, oh, we'll get this done in a day. But there is an awful lot more in it. And I think the one thing that always seems to fall down on good induction is that people try and jump it too fast. Now, I've worked with CQC, as you all know, and their induction is 9 months, and they mean 9 months, and they will keep on reflecting and working with you over those 9 months. So what they're looking at constantly is, we were there at 3 months, we were there at 6 months, we were there at 9 months. What's the difference in what we've achieved? Have things gone forward, backwards, sideways? What have we achieved? So thank you for watching, and start thinking already about how you want to do your reflective log. Do you want an online version? Do you want a book? What won't be acceptable is to say, I've done nothing. I've not reflected on anything and have no evidence of it. Because why I say it so strongly is because we are different as an organisation in that we really do push you to learn and think about and just reflect on, literally, everything that's happening for you, for the young people, for your team, and for the organisation, because it's growing. So I do commend this process to you. Enjoy it, don't rush it, and let's get to the end of that probation period with an awful lot of achieved, really positive achievements. Lovely. Thank you very much for watching.